6. Sugar Cube Corner.
It could use more chitin.
Avia mused as she trotted up to the recently repainted and refurbished treehouse amidst the orchards of Sweet Apple Acres.
And more blacks and greens. Why are changelings so obsessed with black and green? You're as colorful as the rest of us.
Apple Surprise protested. Avia shrugged.
Well, I guess it's just our tradition or something. But it's always worked for the hive.
The treehouse doesn't need chitin.
Awesome Blitz denied.
But it's an excellent building material.
How do you even get that stuff? Aren't you made of it?
Only my outer shell.
Avia replied matter-of-factly.
But we can also engineer it. It's a process of...
Never mind.
The Pegasus deadpanned, giving an exaggerated yawn.
I don't want to sleep just yet.
Avia puffed up her cheeks in indignation.
Well, you asked. We can talk redesigns after your initiation,
Sapphire stated.
I have so many ideas. You're not redesigning the treehouse again.
Apple Surprise deadpanned. The unicorn filly huffed.
You just don't understand Fabulous.
Apple Surprise just rolled her eyes, and then led the others up the ramp to the treehouse before opening the door. On entering, Avia saw a sizable wooden room that, with the addition of some extra desks, looked like it could make a good classroom. There were various posters across the walls and sheets of paper the Crusaders had scribbled upon with crayons. Against the far wall stood a podium from which a filly-sized pony, or changeling, could hold speeches from. Already ideas for informative lectures were coming to Avia's mind. There was also a desk in one corner flanking the podium and boxes of random junk in another. The boxes were filled with, well, pretty much everything Avia could think of, really. Kites, a scooter, crash helmets. Crusading supplies, no doubt. The rest of the room was largely empty. A few windows lined the exterior, letting in sunlight, while a jury-rigged light bulb hung above, flickering slightly as it cast its light into the room. Avia wasn't sure it was meant to be flickering at all, though. Humming at her observation, Avia took a quick leave from her new friend's side and scuttered up the wall, walking up from that and onto the ceiling as she examined the bulb. She looked a little too closely, briefly hurting her eyes and causing her to blink away the multicolored spots appearing in her vision. But despite that little setback, her theory was confirmed.
I think you need a new bulb soon,
she idly noted before looking up, or rather down, at the ponies, who were all staring at her with wide eyes. Avia blinked.
What?
How are you doing that?
Awesome Blitz asked.
I mean, I know some Pegasi who can stand upside down on clouds, but... well, that's just weird.
Hey, all changelings can do this. Well, they are bugs,
Apple Surprise mused.
Not bugs! Changelings! Sorry.
Apple Surprise quickly apologized, holding up her hooves in defense.
Wonder if we could get our cutie marks in roof walking.
Awesome Blitz mused a little too seriously.
Well, unless you want to be converted into changelings, I don't think that's going to work.
Avia responded, hopping off the ceiling and using her wings to gently float back down to the ground.
Wait, you can do that?
Avia snickered.
Nah, changeling magic can't do that, though that might make for a good research project. What did that cutie mark even look like anyway?
Sapphire asked her Pegasus friend, returning to her point. Blitz just shrugged.
Well, at least not any more than what a cutie mark in Fabulous would be.
Sapphire sighed wistfully.
Oh, I don't know. I can just picture it in my head.
Of course you can.
Girls, the, initiation?
Apple Surprise brought the other fillies back to the here and now, taking the stand.
Y'all ready?
Awesome Blitz and Sapphire gave each other excited grins. Then, before she knew what was happening, the two pushed Avia in front of the podium and took flanking positions behind her. And just to add to the daunting atmosphere, the light went out, and a magic aura drew curtains over all the windows in the room, casting them all into darkness. Avia lit her horn, and the faces of the fillies around her were illuminated as the earth pony in front of her began to speak.
In the beginning, 3 fillies had a mission.
Apple Surprise began, putting on a dramatic voice.
A mission to find their purpose, their talent, their calling, their purpose.
You said that one already,
Blitz pointed out.
Don't interrupt,
Sapphire whispered. Avia just rolled her eyes.
And
Apple Surprise continued, throwing the stink eye at Blitz.
And they did it. They and fellow crusaders like Babseed and Gabriella found just what made them special. And now we fillies stand united in following in their hoofsteps as we discover our own.
The curtains were yanked back open by Sapphire's magic, and the light switched back on.
And now we welcome another worthy crusader into our club. And together we shall all make our mark on the world and discover our cutie marks.
Avia tilted her head as a sheet of red cloth floated down towards her. The image of a blue shield in which a golden filly stood proudly was sewn into the cloth. The unicorn settled the cloth onto the changeling nymph's back, then tied it around her neck into a small cape.
Welcome, Avia, to the Cutie Mark Crusaders. Cutie Mark Crusaders! Yay!
The 3 fillies all echoed at once, causing Avia to blush.
Thanks,
Avia said, feeling slightly overwhelmed by the sudden nature of the entire situation.
So, what now?
Apple Surprise hopped down from the podium, giving Avia a beaming smile.
Now that you're a full-fledged, honest-to Celestia Cutie Mark Crusader, we need to figure out the best way to get you your mark.
We should make a list of things you might be good at and do them one by one until something clicks.
Awesome Blitz explained.
A checklist?
Avia chirped questioningly, her eyes suddenly sparkling.
I can do that. Do we start now? No, silly,
Sapphire said with a giggle.
We need brain fuel while working on our next adventure.
Ice cream,
Blitz announced, punching the air excitedly.
Come on, y'all. Sugar Cube Corner is waiting.
Apple Surprise stated, quickly vacating the clubhouse as Awesome Blitz eagerly fluttered her wings and followed on. This just left Avia and Sapphire, the latter of whom seemed to be waiting for the other. Avia's excited eagerness faltered a little, and she took on a more thoughtful expression as an odd thought came into the princess's head.
Have I just joined a cult?
Avia wondered to herself.
I don't think so.
Sapphire called back.
We didn't get cutie marks for that either. Oh, all right then.
Avia replied, but then she frowned at the unicorn's wording.
Wait, what?
After leaving the clubhouse, the group headed immediately back the way they came. Sugar Cube Corner was the brightly and deliciously decorated building Avia had seen earlier, just before meeting her fellow crusaders. And if memory served, it was also the home and workplace of Pinkie Pie. That could only mean the best ice cream a filly could ask for. So the fillies trotted along, the 4 of them giggling amongst themselves as the ponies regaled stories of their past crusades onto Avia, with the princess in turn sharing some stories from the hive. The awkwardness the changeling nymph had been feeling at her sudden induction into the club was fading fast as she got to know them better. Sapphire was so much alike to her mother, though didn't seem to have as much of an aversion to getting dirty in pursuit of her mark. Now that Awesome Blitz's suspicion toward the changeling had died away, she had shown an eagerness to race the changeling and test those weird wings on her back. Apple Surprise did her best to keep the Pegasus in check for the time being, at least until they were full on whatever flavors of ice cream they could imagine. Avia could just see the love radiating from each of them in droves. The love of three best friends who were destined to remain so forevermore. And it was all the better since Avia could not say no to the small pick-me-up she passively collected as they walked and talked. And speaking of a light snack, their targeted site of sugar and mayhem quickly came into view.
Race ya!
Blitz proclaimed, hopping into the air and shooting off.
What? Hey, no fair!
Sapphire protested, taking off after her. Apple Surprise just gave Avia a shrug, and they both ran off to try and gain ground and hopefully overtake their friends. While it was a good thing Avia shared the Pegasus's advantage, and one more than that. Avia smirked, her horn lighting as a portal opened up beneath her and exited just ahead of the Pegasus. She sank down and quickly emerged, blowing a raspberry at the suddenly startled pony before the changeling raised her own wings and took off toward the building. She had this in the bag. Take that, ponies! Changeling wins, each and every... She suddenly wasn't going anywhere. Thud. Avia hit the ground, splayed out on her belly as she stared towards the finish line that was mere meters away. She wondered what shock and horror the other three saw in her face as they all passed her by and finished before her. "Where are you going in such a hurry, eh, kid?" A familiar voice asked in amusement.
Cordis!
Avia moaned in indignation, rolling onto her back to see the smirking changeling stallion that had his magic latched onto her tail.
No fair!
"Neither is using your changeling magic to cheat," he replied knowingly.
Awesome Blitz was using her wings!
The princess protested.
She did do that.
Apple Surprise noted from the doorway, shooting the sheepish Pegasus a dirty look. Cardis chuckled, releasing his hold on Avia. "Well, then you're both disqualified. I think the young unicorn over there wins."
Yay!
Sapphire cheered. Avia and Awesome Blitz both pouted at the result.
So who's your friend?
Apple Surprise asked the nymph. Avia huffed, brushing herself off as she got back to her hooves.
Everyone, this is Cordis. He used to be Mom's captain of the Royal Guard. Before he got old.
Another younger changeling quipped as she bumped him on the shoulder.
Venice, don't speak to your father like that.
Another changeling, Panacea, lightly scolded her daughter. Cardis and Panacea had clearly aged, though only appeared to be a little older than Queen Twilight Sparkle's friends, being in their late 50s. The former also seemed to walk with a limp, and his wife was poised and ready to catch him at the first sign of him falling over.
I see you've made some friends,
Venice observed, looking toward the three fillies behind her princess.
Mind introducing us? Oh, of course.
Avia agreed.
This is Apple Surprise, Sapphire, and Awesome Blitz. Girls, this is Panacea and Venice. Panacea's a pretty great nurse. She always treats me when I'm ill and even shares her notes with me. I'm always ready to nurture a curious mind,
Panacea said cheerfully.
Especially when it's that of a future queen.
So, if we get cuts and bruises while crusading, we go to you?
Blitz asked curiously. Cardis frowned. Cuts and bruises? Avia, you know what your mother would say.
No cuts and bruises,
Avia assured quickly, shooting a look at Blitz.
right?
Fine.
She conceded.
For now.
Apple Surprise face huffed.
You are the Cutie Mark Crusaders, all right.
Venice commented with a snort.
You know of us?
Sapphire inquired.
I know the originals. Met them when I was a filly.
Venice claimed.
Me and Pulula met them back when, well, when we had to stay in and around Ponyville for a while.
Oh, don't remind me. Cardus grumbled. Still, you found out that just because of my leg, you couldn't outrun me.
You did not run me either. You used your magic to catch me.
His daughter shot back. Cardus laughed. Didn't stop you from trying to get a cutie mark with them.
And I'm sure the princess isn't doing that herself at all.
Uvenus snarked. Cardus gave the nymph a knowing look. Well, Your Highness, are you?
Avia
muttered.
No?
If he knew she was lying, which he most certainly did, he didn't call her out on it.
So, going to see your Aunt Pinkie?
Panacea asked.
And ice cream?
Sapphire answered for Avia. Well, don't let us keep you, Cardus said, ruffling Avia's mane. I've got to go find your mother anyway.
Okie dokie,
Avia responded.
Will I see you later?
The town's only so big, Cardus responded, beginning to limp away with the help of his wife. Do try to stay out of trouble, Avia.
Uh-huh, promise.
He knew better than to ask her to pinky promise. Once the trio were gone, Awesome Blitz gave Avia a nudge.
Come on, girls,
she started.
Ice cream waits for no pony and definitely no changeling.
Well, there was no arguing with that, so the group all quickly made their way inside the establishment. The interior was as bright and colorful as the outside. The initial room after entering was filled with well-cleaned tables, surrounded by comfy-looking cushions. Near the windows were several booths with a view of the square outside, and opposite the doorway was a counter which had far too many treats on display that the fillies couldn't even count amidst their rumbling stomachs. Behind the counter led into the kitchen, and from there the residential part of the building. But really, then and there, they just cared about the ice cream. Only issue was, no pony seemed to be behind the counter. The four fillies walked up to it, hopping up to see over it and into the kitchen.
So,
Sapphire began.
Do we wait, or... Hi, Avia!
Pinkie Pie suddenly and very loudly greeted as she shot up from behind the counter amidst a hail of confetti.
And Avia's new friends, too! I knew you'd all get along. Touch your tail, rolling eye, itchy knee told me so.
Avia replied.
Where did you come from? Well, I started off at a rock farm, but if you want to go before that, you'd have to ask your parents for the talk.
Pinkie Pie explained.
But forget about all that. I assume you're here to buy? We're looking for ice cream, ma'am.
Apple Surprise answered. Pinkie chuckled.
Please. Ma'am makes me sound old. But if you find yourselves a seat, I'll bring the menus over. Unless there's something at the counter you want. We'll take the menus.
The filly replied.
Thanks.
Pinkie Pie nodded and then retreated to collect said menus. As she did that, the four walked over to a window booth and all got comfortable on the seats. Avia sat next to Sapphire, with Awesome Blitz and Apple Surprise opposite them.
So, you ever noticed how Pinkie Pie's kinda strange?
Awesome Blitz asked Avia.
Yeah, but my mother says I should just accept it.
Avia said.
And she usually knows what's best. Her kid, Cupcake, well, he's a mini version. It's kinda scary, the stuff he gets up to at school.
Apple Surprise added in.
Fun, but scary. Here you go,
Pinkie Pie announced, bouncing up to the table and depositing a menu for each filly.
Just call when you want to order, or come to the counter. I'll be waiting.
She then bounced off, hopping behind the counter and leaning against it while watching the group expectantly.
So, what's everyone having?
Blitz asked.
I'm gonna go for the Mega Mix, I think. Always wanted to tackle the biggest challenge.
Apple Surprise noted.
And the most delicious.
Sapphire added. Avia opened the menu, looking over the contents. Honestly, there were more flavors there than she had any idea even existed. and all of them sounded equally amazing. The only thing missing was ice cream infused with love energy. Now that would have been the best.
I just don't know what to have.
Avia mused.
There's so many.
Well, there's no rush.
Apple Surprise responded.
After Pinkie gets the order, Pumpkin and Pound Cake will get them over lickety-split.
And then we can get down to business,
Apple Blitz announced.
I got so many ideas, and I know you said no cuts and bruises, but hear me out.
Avia sighed.
This was going to be an exhausting day, wasn't it?